Daniel McQueen is a psychedelic specialist, educator, and author of the book Psychedelic Cannabis: Therapeutic Methods and Unique Blends to Treat Trauma and Transform Consciousness. In 2012, he co-founded one of the first legal psychedelic plant medicine therapy clinics in the United States, the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness, which is located in Boulder, Colorado, and is currently celebrating its 10-year anniversary. The same year, Daniel also founded the Psychedelic Sitters School, which continues to train students from around the world in mindfulness-based psychedelic therapy and cannabis-assisted psychedelic therapy. And joining me today is Daniel McQueen from Medicinal Mindfulness. Thank you for joining us, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jen. I'm really grateful to be here and love what you guys are doing at Psychedelic Support.
Oh, thank you. We're really glad to have you. I would love to jump in and get to ask you more about medicinal mindfulness. So you founded one of the first legal cannabis therapy centers in the US in 2014, very early in this kind of psychedelic renaissance. I want to ask why you started the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness.
Yeah, I had to really think about that question. I think in some ways I was spirit-led, to do this work, like so many of us. I started out with my training program and started practicing with cannabis as a psychedelic in my private practice. And the more we did the work, my wife started to do this work as well with cannabis. She's an art therapist. The more we did this work, the more we realized how much back-end support we really needed to do it well, and all of the back-end stuff. So, we worked with the crew here, a small team of therapists and interfaith ministers to bring our practices together so that we could support each other in our practice and not be overwhelmed by the paperwork and such. And so we have a full team here working together with the medical doctor and the ministers and guides and therapists to work with psychedelic cannabis and ketamine, and it's been really great.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm so grateful that kind of healing is available for more people. And obviously Colorado has led the way in making some of these treatments accessible. So you mentioned just a second ago that you offer both cannabis-assisted psychotherapy and ketamine-assisted therapy. And I wonder if you could tell us more, about what that experience is like for folks. How are you using these substances to support healing? And are you using them in combination with therapy? What does someone see when they get to join you for this kind of healing work?
Yeah, so like you said, Colorado led the way of being one of the first states in the country to legalize cannabis for adult use. And through experimentation and work, we were able to figure out how to reliably create psychedelic experiences with cannabis. So it's similar. It's hard to believe. I totally get that, but it's very similar to an ayahuasca or psilocybin journey, but with the empathogenic support similar to MDMA. And it also affects the endocannabinoid system directly. So deep tissue relaxation and resolution of deeply held stress, tension, and trauma in the body. So it works similar to an MDMA/psilocybin therapeutic journey, where people will have a lot of memory recall to clear old injuries and experiences, a lot of emotional support similar to MDMA, but it has a psychedelic visual component as well. So it's primarily a trauma resolution therapy, but within trauma, there's a lot of symptoms we work with. Sometimes folks come who are in really difficult spaces and just need a reset, regulate their nervous system. So we might start them with working with ketamine to help reset the system, and then we do a lot of deep trauma resolution work with the cannabis. And so we have an onboarding process that involves a medical evaluation with our medical director and some assessments and tons of waivers and things. But once people get in their system, sometimes it's short-term treatment, one intensive, or two, like a 2-day intensive or a week-long intensive that combines sessions with ketamine and cannabis. And then some of our clients are ongoing, and we have several psychotherapists on staff, and that's part of our protocol as well, to include a lot of therapeutic support in our program.
That's really powerful. I know that
Mhm.
kind of support, especially when people are in sort of these neuroplastic, more
Mhm.
flexible states where their brains are able to really connect and make permanent that healing. It's really powerful to
Mhm.
have that kind of
Yeah.
counseling support on hand.
Yeah, we think it's essential. We come from a transpersonal model from,
Mm.
Stan Grof's work and also a mindfulness based model. And so, ongoing support, slowing the process down, not an in and out model. We think that's just essential to any therapeutic or healing relationship. So,
Oh, that's beautiful, and some of the amazing philosophies and modalities that you've
mhm,
mentioned are, I know, some of the most impactful and transformative for
mhm.
many people. I'm grateful that you offer those.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I,
thanks.
there is, I know another piece of your offerings is the Psychedelic Sitters School,
Mhm,
something that I've heard a bit about, and I know that many people in our community have come into this work because of folks who are sitting with them and have sort of been introduced to
mhm,
this concept of being supported in their psychedelic healing. So I wonder if you
mhm,
could tell us more about what is the Psychedelic Sitters School and how is that a support for your clients?
mhm. Yeah, so Sitter School started in 2012 as well, and then when cannabis became legal in 2014, we realized we could teach this modality to others. So we've been developing it for the last 10 years. So we teach a specific modality called mindfulness-based psychedelic therapy, which again holds the transpersonal model of somatic awareness, trauma-informed space. It's very mindfulness-based. So we're not just teaching how to the logistics of how to facilitate these sessions, but we're teaching mindfulness practices that facilitators and guides can use to stay regulated themselves and get the most out of the experience themselves. And we have, it's split into two parts: cannabis assisted psychedelic guide training, which is two intensives with experiential practicums and psychedelic cannabis experiences for all of our students. And then we have a more advanced psychedelic therapy training program for those who wish to work clinically with these practices. So we have a protocol to work clinically with cannabis as a medicine for trauma resolution. And then beyond that, we teach people the ins and outs of starting their own private practices, and we provide a lot of back end support for our members and students to help develop their practices. So we have students all over the country now and in Canada who are actively engaged in psychedelic therapy using cannabis as a psychedelic tool.
There's so much promise, it seems, in the cannabis-assisted psychotherapy world, given the fact that it is more widely legal
Hmm.
than other medicines, at least currently.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd love to hear, if you have any reactions to that, and also I wanted to just ask a question around who can sign up for the Psychedelic Sitter School. Is
Sure.
it
Yeah.
anyone? Do you have to be licensed?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, cannabis is legal either under the medical model or the adult use model for 70% of the U.S. population. So, and then all of Canada, and it's being legalized in other countries all over the world. It's an opportunity to start practicing as a psychedelic guide right now without having to change any of the laws. We know how to work with psychotherapists, licensed professionals to keep their licenses safe and protected, both under medical models and in the adult use model. And it's as effective as working with other psychedelic medicines, and it's as intense. It's not uncommon at all for me to work with clients who are having DMT level state experiences. So it's a really powerful tool. We just forgot how to work with it because most people just smoke it. And also, over the last 10 years I've been working, the quality of the medicine has increased substantially. So we're just touching in on what's possible with this medicine. And as a foundation for working with other medicines, what we do is we use cannabis to teach all the foundational skill sets because it mimics all the other medicines. It's a good medicine to work with. And as other medicines become legal, we'll be able to integrate them into our protocols, into our mindfulness protocols and such. And so we're starting next year at the latest. We'll be starting advanced practicums in psilocybin and DMT facilitation as well. So the laws are quickly changing in It's been wild to watch how quickly things are moving. So we're hoping to create a process that can support a lot of people being guides for others.
That is, I think, a source of knowledge that many people are seeking right now. How do I learn to be a guide? How do I start clinics? How does this healing become more accessible? So I'm grateful that you all are not only figuring that out and making it available locally, but helping spread that knowledge so people can take it with them where they go.
Yeah.
I know, Colorado has been on the front lines of this changing legal context around psychedelics. And I'm curious if you have observed any changes in the state following, Denver's decriminalization of psilocybin, which is really exciting. You all are in Boulder. If you've noticed anything in Boulder that may help us think about what's coming next.
Yeah, man, it's moving quick. So, so right now it's decriminalized in Denver. So there's not much we can do with it in a clinical setting, a therapeutic setting right now. But I would be surprised if other plant medicines weren't legal in Colorado within the next few years. Decriminalized Nature has a big presence here in local chapters in Boulder and Denver, and they're working on some ballot measures to make adult use of plant medicines completely legal in Colorado. And then there's another organization, SPORE, and their allies who are working to bring legalization of plant medicines for adult use as well as for therapeutic use, and the creation of future psychedelic centers here. And these ballot measures and there's even legislation that's moving through to legalize medicines and to create studies on safe use practices. And it's starting to happen all over the US, so we're engaged in that process as much as we can be. Our primary focus is doing the work. But I'm working with other allies and doing everything I can to support the legalization of these medicines. So I think we're making huge progress, and I would be surprised if we didn't see legalization within the next few election cycles.
That is incredibly exciting to think about. And I know Colorado's, path forward has really helped other states establish their models for some of these developments. So it'll be incredible to watch what comes next over the next few years. And it's great to hear about so much of the activism and the organizing happening at the state level to really pioneer these pathways.
Yeah, it's great. Kudos to all the activists. They're the ones that made all this possible. And the cannabis activists, back in the day and everything, we still have a lot of work to do, get people out of jail for these medicines and such. But, we're doing everything we can to move it forward.
Definitely. Yes. The justice piece is huge. And I know some states, I'm not so familiar if it's been this way in Colorado. My understanding is in California, there were some movements to build in that folks who had been imprisoned for cannabis would be fast-tracked into getting licenses for dispensaries, and some movements towards justice, which is so critical as we're looking at what will very likely be a huge industry benefiting a lot of people and has the opportunity to maybe be done differently than other medical fields have been.
I think Colorado's making progress in that area, but I think there's more work to be done here in that regard, and that's why we're naming it. And I think also want to share that our training program has a diversity and inclusivity scholarship, need-based scholarship for folks. So we're doing everything we can to make these, facilitate making this as accessible as possible for all people. And we think that's essential too. So I just wanted to name that piece. We have space for everyone in our program. You had mentioned, you'd asked a question earlier. So our program allows we work with professionals in the field of psychotherapy and other helping professionals. And we teach people how to do this work in compliance with their license. But we also believe this work is for all people. And we also work with a lot of students who are transitioning from other professions into this field. And we believe we believe everyone can do this work with the right training and accountability and a code of conduct and such. And so we're sharing as much as possible. And most of our students end up going further into their education and getting degrees in psychotherapy or ministry or something related. So it seems to be working really well. The average age of our program of our students is in their mid-40s. So we attract mostly professionals who are already helping professionals or looking for a significant transition in their lives. So one of the things that these medicines do is require us to do our own work and grow ourselves and stuff. And that's can be difficult. And we're learning how to navigate that space and provide guidance for folks who are really looking for a major transformation in their lives, both internal healing, but also professional development and calling.
That is so critical. It's wonderful to hear that you're wrestling with the confluence of all of these really alive issues in the
Yeah.
field right now. You use the
Yeah.
word accountability. I know we are talking
Mhm.
in many spaces in psychedelics about accountability and safety
Yeah.
and ethics. And I'm grateful that you are putting those things front and center. And it sounds like
Mhm.
they are a critical part of how you hold the space
Yeah.
that you're training people in. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
And we do. So we have something called the Safe Community Policy, which is our community code of conduct and such, and we're really working to create like a accountability to community model, right? Right now, boards and oversight boards are just now forming in the movement, and so we're connecting with other organizations who are looking to provide objective oversight to like people and programs like ours. So we're engaging that, but we create a lot of community oversight for all of our students and practitioners, and a lot of mentorship. And given the nature of psychedelic therapy and the history of conflicts and such, and controversies in our field, we think this is a pretty essential piece. And so we bring in ethics and accountability from the very beginning of our program.
That is so critical. And I said it before, but I really just appreciate that you are holding that space for others, because there are many people seeking a grounding in the field right now. And I think medicinal mindfulness
Mhm.
and other spaces that are serving as these early hubs will help these values be replicated throughout the
Mhm.
field, which is what we need.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
goal, right? Is be good
mhm,
models.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to ask you briefly,
Yeah.
would you wanna share with us a little bit about how you came into this work, how you as a practitioner found your way into psychedelic medicine?
Sure. Yeah. I believe this is a core identity for me. Was always a little different and curious about hidden spaces, so to speak, and mysticism and mindfulness. And spirituality. And so when I was in my early 20s, I was part of underground communities that practice from a spiritual orientation. Those were really great, but I also realized through that process that it wasn't the whole model, and that we needed other additional paradigms to support the spiritual path, especially with medicines. And so I learned a lot about psychedelic harm reduction and safe use practices, and then ended up going to Naropa University. I got my transpersonal counseling master's, thinking I would work within the field somehow. At that point, it was still very new, so really research was the only path available at that time. So I always thought I would be heading in this direction. I've always had threads of this in my life, even growing up. And but From there, it was just a realization that people needed this work. And then cannabis, when it became legal in 2014, I realized this is a legal medicine and it's as potent as these other medicines. So I just started exploring that and developed the whole program around it, just from this one simple herb, and wrote a book called Psychedelic Cannabis to teach people how to use it themselves. So if anybody's interested, check out that book. I tell you how to make specific blends of cannabis so that you can have, and how to set up the space and container to elicit full psychedelic states. So I'm here to share and educate, and just be part of this movement.
Thank you, and we'll make sure to link to the book, and also to some of the other pieces you mentioned, the diversity scholarship,
Great.
maybe the safe community policy if it's available. We'll
Yep.
we'll have links to all of that for folks
That'd be
watching.
great. Yeah. The safe community policy is being revised now, but there's one online that's really good. But it's an evolving document and keeps really growing and cultivating good relationship in the community. So that's our
Mm,
intention there. So yeah, I'm
that's
happy to
wonderful.
help any way I can. So please stay in touch.
Yeah, well, I want to maybe give a moment to just ask, what is next? What is next for the center? You've done so much. You've been
Yeah,
leading
right.
in the field in
Mhm.
many ways. What do you see on the horizon?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I've really had to think about that question when I saw it. We're really trying to just grow deep roots right now. We're developing internal infrastructure to organize the program and make it as seamless as possible. The training program continues to grow, organically, and we're going to keep supporting students in that way. What's next? We're stepping into group work. Because of COVID, we had to pause all our group work. We're stepping back into that to make this therapeutic practice more accessible for people. It's a good way to do it, and I love working with groups. And on the training side, like I said, starting this year, we're going to start bringing in other psychedelic medicines and intensives and training on the with other psychedelic medicines. So that's where we're headed, and I'm just going to continue to keep doing the work, keep growing the program organically, and just keep playing in our little pocket of the work, support other people growing into it too. So I think that's about where we're headed.
That's really exciting. We'll definitely be watching for all of the great news coming out of the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness. I want to just show the website, so if folks want to connect, they can. Do you have any tips or advice for if people want to learn more or get in touch?
Yeah, check it out. Check out that website. Get on our newsletter. So, we really try to stay in communication with our community. And through this website, you can go to the training page, and it'll take you to our training program, and our services page. It'll take you to receiving clinical services. And you can always submit an inquiry form to start getting involved, and we'll connect you with the right team members to get you connected with our community. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Daniel. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Jen.